You are now watching Cultural Survival's Global News Bulletin. Every month, Cultural Survival brings you the latest news impacting indigenous peoples across the globe. This Mars edition features important stories from Europe, North, Central, South America, Africa, Asia, and beyond. Starting news from USA, South Dakota House lawmakers endorsed House Bill 1232 promoting voluntary cooperation between state agencies and tribal nations. While encouraging collaborations, the committee rejected a mandate for formal meetings and documentations, arguing that effective government relationships should be built on mutual trusts.
And in news from Canada, Atikamekw leaders have launched a landmark lawsuit against the Quebec government to halt industrial logging on their ancestral lands. Citing decades of environmental damage and failed negotiations, the legal action seeks to cancel forestry permits issued without consent from Indigenous peoples. This high-stakes challenge could set a national precedent for Aboriginal land title.
In Australia, traditional owners have launched a landmark $1.5 billion federal lawsuit against the Western Australian government over toxic asbestos contamination in Wittenoom. The Banjima people are demanding the urgent removal of millions of tons of waste, seeking to finally remediate ancestral lands following decades of neglect.
Moving to Africa now, in Kenya, a new report reveals that Kenya's indigenous communities, including the Maasai and Turkana, are facing widespread land dispossession and human rights violations from large-scale energy and oil projects. Officials are now urging the government to enforce stricter protections and ensure local consultation to prevent further cultural disruption.
In Tanzania, indigenous Tanzanian communities have filed a formal grievances against the World Bank, alleging the institution failed to remediate abuses from its $100 million regrow projects. Despite the initiative's termination, residents report ongoing extrajudicial violence and forced eviction, demanding immediate redress for persistent human rights violations.
And in Japan, a groundbreaking study reveals indigenous smoke drying rituals in Asia are the world's oldest mummification practices, dating back 10,000 years. Predating Egyptian traditions, these sacred methods highlight the sophisticated spirituality of ancient hunter-gatherers and finally recognize the enduring burial techniques as a cornerstone of global cultural history.
In Philippines, the Philippine Supreme Court has issued a landmark ruling requiring mining firms to secure indigenous consent before renewing operations. In a major victory for indigenous land rights, the court prioritized legal protections over private contracts, ensuring that indigenous communities hold final authority over their domains.
And in Taiwan, indigenous communities across Taiwan are reclaiming their heritage, transforming ancient songs and dances into powerful tools for sovereignty. From the Sidik to the Bunan, youth and elders alike are revitalizing native languages to heal historical trauma and assert self-governed futures through vibrant, living cultural resistance.
In Nepal, Nepal has made history as the first Asian nation to sign a $55 million carbon deal with the Leaf Coalition. The agreement rewards local communities for curbing deforestation across 3 provinces. While experts emphasize the need for transparent fund distribution, the deal remains a major milestone towards Nepal's net zero goals.
Moving to Brazil now, the Brazilian government has halted dredging on the Tapajós River following weeks of intense indigenous protests near a major grain port. Demonstrators successfully pushed the administration to guarantee mandatory community consultations, marking a significant victory for land rights and the protection of vital Amazonian waterways.
In Chile, Mapuche groups across Chile marched for the 14th year, demanding official state recognition for their native language, Mapuchegun. Protesters criticized the government's failure to protect linguistic rights, calling for urgent legal frameworks to safeguard their ancestral culture and heritage in Wallamapu.
In Argentina, indigenous groups in Jujuy are rallying against proposed reforms to Argentina's glacier law, warning that new mining permissions threaten vital freshwater reserves. Activists demand government accountability, arguing that industrial expansion into protected periglacial zones prioritizes short-term corporate profits over the region's long-term water security.
In Ecuador, indigenous Quechua communities are deploying ancestral knowledge and modern technology to defend Ecuador's Yasumi biosphere reserves for industrial exploitation. This landmark initiative creates a vital buffer zone for isolated tribes, integrating indigenous leadership into national park management to safeguard the planet's most biodiverse landscape.
And in Nicaragua, dozens of indigenous mosquito families are seeking refuge in Costa Rica as land grab violence intensifies along the Nicaragua-Honduras border. Driven by armed settler invasions and alleged government inaction, displaced communities warn of a growing humanitarian crisis as targeted killings force entire ancestral villages into exile.
In Bolivia, indigenous leaders in the Bolivian Amazon are demanding the government halt legislative reforms that threatened ancestral territories. Warning against land commodification, groups are seeking urgent dialogue by late March to secure collective property rights, integrate traditional medicine, and establish an indigenous university. That is all for this edition of Cultural Survival's Global News Bulletin. Stay tuned for our next broadcast. For more information on the rights of indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, and Blue Sky.